Hello everyone. In this lecture, we'll discuss about the basic idea, basic introduction to the ANS. So before this, we'll learn about the basic divisions of the nervous system. So then we can understand the ANS clear. So here, nervous system is generally divided into the central nervous system as well as the peripheral nervous system, right? So here, what is central nervous system? Central nervous system includes what? Brain and spinal cord. Okay, central nervous system includes brain and spinal cord. Here, what are the major functions of the CNS, central nervous system? Here, the central nervous system may integrate many body activities and which may process many sensory informations like which is responsible for hearing, which is responsible for sight, which is responsible for taste, which is responsible for smell, etc. Okay, apart from that, which is also responsible for emotion and which is also responsible for the thought and which is also these are also some of the functions of the CNS, right? So then what is peripheral nervous system? Here, whatever the nerves, so those are arising out of the CNS. Okay, so nerves those are arising out of the CNS are considered as the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so that begins at the CNS and ends at the peripheral organs. Okay, so those are outside of the CNS are considered as peripheral nervous system. Right? So among which includes how many nerves? So which include 12 cranial nerves and 33 spinal nerves. Okay, so among all these, some nerves will carry the information towards the CNS. Okay, towards the CNS. Some nerves will carry the information away from the CNS. Okay, so whatever the nerves that carries the information towards the CNS are considered as the afferent nerves. Okay, so whatever the nerves that carries the information away from the CNS towards the effector organs are considered as the afferent nerves. Okay, so always the afferent nerves will carry the sensory information. So here always the afferent nerves will carry the motor information. Okay, so here peripheral nervous system includes both the afferent nerves and sensory nerves. Afferent or sensory nerves or afferent and motor nerves. Okay, again in the afferent nervous system. Okay, again in the afferent nervous system, in our motor part of the peripheral nervous system, we have two divisions. Okay, so what are those? There are somatic nervous system and autonomous nervous system. Okay, somatic nervous system and autonomous nervous system. So they may perform the motor functions of the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so here among these, so here SNS, somatic nervous system may performs the voluntary functions, so whereas autonomous nervous system will perform the involuntary functions. Okay, so here the somatic voluntary function, who will perform voluntary functions? Skeletal muscles, right? So movements, voluntary movements, like, so those are under our control, like walking, lifting something. Okay, so all these are the voluntary movements, right? These are all under the control of somatic nervous system. So what is autonomous nervous system? Here the autonomous nervous system is the part of here which performs the involuntary functions, right? So here which body parts in our body, which organs in our body performs the involuntary functions? So mostly smooth muscles, glands, various internal organs like stomach, intestine, bronchioles, lungs, etc. Okay, so in urinary bladder and etc. Then like, so various glands, salivation, gastric secretions and etc. are also under the control of ANS. Okay, so mostly heart, which can ANS will perform the functions of heart and smooth muscles and various visceral organs, as well as one more is internal organs, glands, heart. Okay, so these are the involuntary organs and these actions are performed by the autonomous nervous system. So then tell me, what is autonomous nervous system? Autonomous nervous system is the motor part of the peripheral nervous system, and which is associated with the involuntary functions, right? Okay, so which is associated with involuntary functions. Okay, here among these, here then we'll see the organization of the nervous system. Here we know the basic idea. Here the autonomous nervous system is the motor part of the peripheral nervous system, so which is associated with the involuntary function, so which is distributed to the heart, smooth muscles, glands and internal organs, etc., right? So in that, here then we'll see the organization of the ANS and SNS, somatic nervous system. So then we'll identify the basic difference between the ANS and somatic nervous system. Here in case of somatic nervous system, so how these nerves are arranged? So these nerves are originate at the CNS and ends at the effector organ. Here in case of somatic nervous system, which ends at the skeletal muscles. So in case of autonomous nervous system, which ends at various visceral organs, right? So here means what? Here which is starts at the CNS and ends at the effector organs. This is nothing but organization of the PNS, right? So in this, in case of somatic nervous system, so there is a single neuron. Okay, only the single neuron will connect the CNS and effector organ. So that's why SNS we considered as a single neuron system. Okay, so in case of ANS, here here in SNS there is a single neuron between the muscle and the CNS. In case of ANS, so there are two neurons are involved. Okay, so here the two neurons that will connect the CNS and the effector organs, right? So these two neurons are connected by the autonomic ganglia. Okay, so connection of two nerves is two neurons is the ganglia, right? So here there are two neurons are involved. So in that, neuron that is before the ganglia is considered as the preganglionic neuron. So the neuron which is after the ganglia is considered as postganglionic neuron. Okay, so there are two neurons, in preganglionic neurons as well as postganglionic neurons. Okay, in here in the autonomous nervous system we have two neurons, but again this autonomous nervous system is divided into sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, right? So in case of parasympathetic nervous system, so these preganglionic neurons are long and postganglionic neurons are short. Okay, in which case, in case of parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, in case of sympathetic nervous system, so these preganglionic neurons are short and postganglionic neurons are long. Okay, so here the effector organs are present. Okay, so here one neurotransmitter is released from the nerve endings of the preganglionic neurons, and here also one neurotransmitter is released. So in order to show the effect, here also one neurotransmitter is released and here also one neurotransmitter is released from these nerve endings, right? So here in case of parasympathetic nervous system, in the both cases from the preganglionic nerve endings and postganglionic nerve endings, there is a single neurotransmitter. Same acetylcholine is released here and acetylcholine is released here. In case of sympathetic nervous system, from the preganglionic nerve endings, acetylcholine is released, and from the postganglionic nerve endings, norepinephrine and epinephrine is released. Okay, so this is what the organization of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and then here then we'll discuss the divisions of the ANS. Okay, so what are the two divisions of ANS? So there is a sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, right? So in here sympathetic nervous system we considered as the fight and fright response, which is associated with fight and fright response. Means what? So which is activated during the excited stage, and which is activated during the emergency, and which is activated during the exercise. Okay, so in the excited state, this sympathetic system is activated. So here the parasympathetic nervous system is also which is associated with the rest and digest. Okay, so this is also considered as rest and digest system. Okay, here this is associated with this is activated whenever the digestion is required and whenever the person is in the rest. Okay, so here both the systems are innervated to the same organs. Okay, so here the parasympathetic nervous system distributed to the heart, and which is also distributed to the bronchioles, and it is also distributed to the bladder and eye. Okay, so here both the systems are innervated by these both the systems innervate all these organs, but some exceptions will be there, but all the organs are innervated by the all the organs of the NS are innervated by both the parasympathetic nervous system as well as sympathetic nervous system, but they works in opposite direction to maintain what, to maintain the homeostasis. For example, so whenever we are doing exercise, okay, so at that time we require extra energy, our skeletal muscles requires extra energy. Okay, so for that from where we get the nutrients from the blood, right? So for that heart rate will be increased to uh, to increase to supply the increased demands. Okay, and the which causes the force of contraction here. So this is done by the sympathetic system. Okay, in the excited state the sympathetic system will activate and supply the excess demands. Okay, in case of parasympathetic nervous system, so this parasympathetic nervous system is activated during the rest. Okay, so during the rest we doesn't need extra blood, right? So that's why heart rate comes to the normal. Okay, this heart rate brings to the normal by the parasympathetic nervous system. This is one of the example for maintaining the homeostasis, right? So here coming to the origin. Okay, so until here what is fight and fright and what is the rest and digest system we have discussed, right? So then we'll discuss the origin of both the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. Okay, so in case of origin, here from where the nerves are originated, from the cranium and from the spinal cord, right? So all these nerves are originating. Okay, so in that some of the nerves are comes under parasympathetic nervous system, and some of the nerves are considered as the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, some nerves are originating from the cranium and sacral regions, and some nerves are originating from the thoracic and lumbar region. Okay, so here in case of parasympathetic nervous system, so parasympathetic nervous system is also considered as the craniosacral outflow. Okay, means what, the nerves are originating from the cranium as well as the sacrum part of the spinal cord. Okay, so which nerves are considered as the parasympathetic nervous system? Here cranial nerve, cranial nerve 3, 7, 9 and 10. Okay, so these are comes under the cranial nerves, comes under the parasympathetic nervous system, and which sacral nerves S2 to S4. Okay, so that's why this parasympathetic nervous system is also considered as craniosacral outflow. Okay, and then sympathetic system. Okay, so from where the nerves are originating, from the thoracic and lumbar region. Okay, so from T1 to L2 or L3 region. Okay, so that's why here the sympathetic nervous system is considered as the thoracolumbar outflow. Okay, so this is about the origin of both the parasympathetic nervous system as well as sympathetic nervous system. So here what we learned here, there are two neurons in case of autonomous nervous system, there are two divisions. In case of parasympathetic nervous system, preganglionic neurons are long and postganglionic neurons are short. In case of sympathetic nervous system, preganglionic neurons are short, postganglionic neurons are long, and then it is considered as the craniosacral outflow, and which is considered as the thoracolumbar outflow. So here cranial nerves includes 3, 7, 9 and 10, and S2 to S4, and here the T1 to L2 or L3 region. Okay, so this is what we studied, right? So then here, so in the autonomous nervous system, neurotransmitters. Okay, so here the neurotransmitters are responsible, neurohumoral transmission is responsible for the production of effect, right? So in the nervous system, right? Here from the preganglionic nerve endings, one neurotransmitter is released, and from the postganglionic nerve endings, one neurotransmitter is released. So in case of parasympathetic nervous system, in both the cases acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter. So in case of sympathetic nervous system, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter from preganglionic nerve endings. Here epinephrine is the neurotransmitter. Okay, so and then what are the basic functions, what are the neurotransmitters, what are the receptors? Okay, so whatever the released ligand, okay, so that will acts on the receptors present here, right? So in case of parasympathetic nervous system, okay, in sympathetic nervous system, in case of parasympathetic nervous system, there are two receptors. One is muscarinic receptors and another one is the nicotinic receptors. Okay, in case of sympathetic nervous system, there are two types of receptors again, alpha and beta. Okay, so in muscarinic receptors includes M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. Okay, nicotinic includes what? Neuronal ganglionic NN and NM. Okay, so again the alpha receptors includes alpha 1, alpha 2. So here the beta receptors includes beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3. Okay, so here the neurotransmitters is major neurotransmitter in parasympathetic nervous system is acetylcholine, in sympathetic nervous system is adrenaline. So that's why this is considered as parasympathetic nervous system is also considered as cholinergic nervous system. So whereas sympathetic nervous system is also called as adrenergic nervous system. Okay, so and then coming to the functions. So in case of heart, its sympathetic nervous system will increases heart rate, force of contraction and increases the EV conduction velocity, whereas parasympathetic nervous system, all the opposite effects it has. Okay, on blood vessels, which causes sympathetic nervous system causes vasoconstriction, parasympathetic nervous system causes vasodilation. In case of bronchioles, so one can here parasympathetic nervous system causes bronchoconstriction and sympathetic nervous system causes bronchodilation. Okay, because whenever we want to run, we require extra air, right? Extra oxygen. Through bronchodilation, extra air will be inhaled into the body, right? Then and then here other effects like which cause pupil constriction, meiosis by constricting the uh, iris muscles, and here also which causes the pupil dilation. One cause meiosis and another cause the mydriasis. Okay, and then on these are the some basic functions of the autonomous nervous system. So this is regarding the basic info regarding autonomous nervous system. So in the next class we'll start with parasympathetic nervous system. So in that we'll discuss about acetylcholine, how the synthesis is done, how the neurohumoral transmission is taken place in PSNN, and then what are the major receptors and what are the drugs will affect this parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so what are the various drugs in parasympathetic nervous system we'll discuss. Okay, are you clear?